Hey there, writer rebels. Today I'm going to share my tips on how to make book teasers, how to make them fast, how to make them effective, and how not to let it take over your entire life. Happy Thursday, everyone. It's me, Scarlett Kol, your resident young adult author, YouTuber, and storyteller. If this is your first time stopping by my channel, thank you so much for checking me out. And if you're a subscriber, thank you so much for coming back, as I really appreciate you guys coming back week after week to watch all of my content. If you'd like to see more videos from me, make sure you're hitting that subscription bar and the notification bell to join our fantastic Rebel family. Anyhow, today we are going to be talking about book teasers, and I'm sure you've probably seen book teasers before. There's even a hashtag that's on most social media platforms, that's hashtag Teaser Tuesday, where a lot of authors are going to put teasers up for their books. They're also very useful right near the launch of a book or when you're trying to build hype for a book that's to be released or has just been released, or if you have a sale or something like that. So basically what a book teaser usually has is it's going to be a line from your book that gets people interested in reading it. Some of these tips will also be useful for book ads if you are looking for something that doesn't necessarily have a quote on it, which can still be a teaser because you're teasing your cover or something like that. However, I am going to focus a little bit more on the ones that do have the quotes on them. So if you are trying to figure out what I'm talking about, it would be something like this, or maybe like this, or it could be like this. Either way, there is a lot of different tips out there and a lot of different ways you can make teasers. You can also buy them from your artist. So if you do have a cover artist, there's a lot of them that offer packages that will allow you to buy teasers that are going to have similar artwork or use elements of the artwork from your cover to create these teasers. That can be super, super simple. You just put in your order, they show up and you use them, and that's great. However, it is not necessarily the most cost-effective option, as they can get a little bit expensive depending on who your designer is and depending how much they're charging for that kind of package and what kind of things that you want. Plus, sometimes you want a little bit more than what those packages offer. So the video I have today is more of a DIY do-it-yourself attempt at creating book teasers, but they can be very simple and effective, and they don't need to be crazy artsy to get people's attention. But the issue of doing things yourself is that you're spending your time instead of spending your dollars. So I've come up with some tips to not only save you money, but save you a little bit of time on creating these teasers and making sure they don't completely take over your life, because you really could be making teasers for hours and hours and hours on end. So hopefully some of these tips will work well for you, and it will make things a whole lot easier, and you'll be able to promote your books and just get the word out there about all of those wonderful stories that you've written. All right, here we go. So here's my first tip, and it took me a while to figure this one out, mainly because I tend to compartmentalize the various parts of my writer business. So when I'm writing, I'm not doing anything else. When I'm editing, I'm focused on editing. When I'm marketing, I'm focused on marketing. Yes, I could be doing all of those in the same day, but I tend to try to keep things in bigger pockets, which I'm actually going to get to later, as that's another tip on creating teasers. But when I'm marketing and when I'm writing is a different time, and when I'm editing is a different time than when I'm marketing. And one thing I figured out was I always forget about teasers until I get into that marketing phase. So when I have to come up with quotes or things to put on my teasers, I'm constantly having to go through my book and go, oh, okay, so I remember this scene, there should be something cool from there. So I'm digging through my book and I'm trying to pull that stuff out. Granted, I can do it on my computer, so there you can use search and work through that a little bit faster. But the one tip that I definitely have is to start early. So when I edit my book, or I'm doing a read through or my proofread before I'm going to put the book up for sale or head it back to my editor or wherever I'm at, but it's relatively finalized, then I'm going to pull those things out of my manuscript as I'm reading it through. Every time I come across something where I'm like, that's a cool line, I'm proud of myself, I've done a good job here, I'm gonna write that down in a Google Doc or in a notebook or whatever, so that I can remember it later. Maybe a month later, maybe a week later, but I'm going to need those quotes to make my teasers. So I'm going to have a full list from the entire book that I'm going to be able to use in my teasers. The other problem that I tended to have with teasers is that I would concentrate on a certain area of the book because that's what I remembered the most. So by doing this through your edit process, you're allowed to pick, well, not that you're allowed, but you remember to pick up things sooner in the book or later in the book, or in those areas that you may have polished off a little bit earlier in the process and haven't spent as much time on recently, and therefore do not remember as well. So you're probably going to pick better quotes as you go through, because you're not looking at your book haphazardly or just flipping back and forth trying to find something. First off, that can take a huge amount of time that you don't necessarily have, or could be using on your next book or creating the teasers themselves. Plus, if you're going through it anyway for the editing process, it's really a few seconds off to the side to copy and paste it into another document, and off you go. This will save you a massive, massive amount of time, but you just have to remember to do it up front instead of waiting until you're in the marketing phase to try and pull out those teasers. An added bonus to looking at your teasers when you're editing is something that I've come across many, many times. I've tried to use stuff in my manuscript on a Teaser Tuesday on Twitter, and I've had to go on there, and especially when they used to have the lower category, the lower character limits, I used to have to put that teaser in, and then it would be too long. So I would take a look at that sentence and try to tighten it up as much as I possibly could to try and send that message without going over the word limit. So there's been a lot of times where I've created a teaser in a tweet, and it's actually made my writing a lot more succinct because I realized there was extra words in there, even though there's nothing really wrong with it. So depending on where you are in the process, some of those lines can be made even stronger, even better, and have even more of an impact because you are looking at them from a marketing angle before it's actually finalized. And you can make that book even better by looking at your teasers ahead of time. My next suggestion for creating teasers is to make sure that you do your research. Just because you like something or just because you think something looks really pretty doesn't necessarily mean it's going to grab your genre. Just like a cover, if you have the wrong cover that doesn't speak to the people that are reading that genre, it's not going to come across right. Obviously, romance is a very easy one to look at because when you read a lot of romance, let's say it's very heavy romance, you're gonna see a lot of very seductive looking teasers. So if you are writing in that genre, it kind of makes sense for your teasers to be very seductive. However, if you are writing sweet romance, you probably don't wanna have something in those dark muted colors with the silhouettes that have that sexy kind of vibe to it, because it's going to tell your readers the wrong thing, especially depending on what sentence you use. There can be some very sexy sentences in a sweet romance if taken out of context. So you really want to know who your audience is and do your research to see what kind of teasers authors in your genres are using and what kind of readers they're reaching with those types of teasers. Just because something looks pretty doesn't mean it's going to sell to the correct readers. So make sure you spend some time to do your research. You probably don't have to do as much of it as you go forward because they are going to stay relatively standard, but you do want to check in periodically to see if some trends have changed or if there's a certain way that somebody has done something that's kind of taken off and has become a lot more popular, as you probably want to make sure that you're staying up on any of those visual trends for your graphics, even if your books are not following a trend or not written to market. My next tip for creating teasers is to keep it short. Like I said before about the Twitter thing, that actually helped make things succinct, but also to keep things short. If you have too much on a teaser, people are going to scroll right past it because it's going to be too much to read. If you have something short and sweet and to the point, they're going to take that in a whole lot better. There are times where you might want to use a longer teaser, say you have a reader group or you have people who are a little bit more engaged in what you're writing and are more willing to stop and read it just because it's from you. You could definitely use longer teasers there, but if you are using it in just general marketing, the shorter and the more impactful that you have it, the better off you're going to be, because it's not going to detract from the art itself and it's going to get people to be able to read it as they're scrolling past quickly. My next tip for making your teasers is a very simple one, but there's so many authors who don't do this, and I've caught myself several times not realizing that I had missed this, but you need to have the important details on your teaser, such as your author name. The title of your book and where they can get it. This could be simply your website on the bottom, or you might want to be as specific as available at Amazon, available at Apple Books, or available at all major ebook retailers, whether it's out, whether it's on pre-order, whatever. Because when people look at that, you want them to be engaged and you want them to buy your book. So the things they need to know is who wrote the book, what's the book called, and where can I get the book? If those details aren't on your teaser, that's not going to help anybody. Usually a lot of teasers you will see are going to have that cover on the front, so you're going to have an image of what your cover looks like. So that will help a lot with the author and title, but just make sure it's easy enough to see, because sometimes covers, when they're a little bit smaller, are a little bit harder to see. So make sure you are having that detail on there, because you wouldn't believe the amount of teasers that I see that don't have an author name. Or it'll have the title of the book, but it doesn't tell you anything else. Most people will assume you can probably get it at Amazon, but I'll go to look for the book on Amazon and it isn't even out yet, and it's not up on pre-order because people are just teasing it early. So you need to be able to show the person what you're doing. Yes, it could be fun just to put a teaser up, but this is a marketing tool. And for marketing tools to work effectively, you need to engage somebody, and then you need to be able to at least give them a call to action or an option to make an action. You might not necessarily need to do the buy today across the front of your teaser, but they need to be able to make that action or buy that book whenever they can, especially since they might click on it immediately. They might look at that ad and be like, oh, I want this book, and go immediately to their favorite retailer to buy it. If it's not there, they're gonna forget about it and move on to somebody else. So you wanna make sure that all of that pertinent information is there and available and easy to see. Now, my next set of tips are going to be related to what you do when you physically go in to make the teaser in whatever software it is that you're using. I'm going to recommend a couple of different types of software, but essentially you could use anything that you're comfortable with. Some people are really good at Photoshop. I'm not, that's not what I use. But if you are, then you probably want to do something in there. Another very popular one is Canva. Canva has both a free and a paid service. So there's some limited options on that. I use Canva quite a bit. I use it for my thumbnails, for my YouTube videos, and I will also do it when there's certain things that I can't do in other programs. And I like it a lot. It's very easy to use. The one that I personally use the most and like a lot is called BookBrush. If you haven't heard of that, that also has a free and a paid version. However, I think the free has like a lifetime limit of you can only make so many images. The reason I personally like BookBrush, and I am not affiliated with them in any sort of way, is that I can do things very, very quickly. Just to show you some of the stuff that you can do with BookBrush, I'm going to show you a little bit of my screen here. I'll try to make it quick so we can get back to the rest of the video, but I just do want to show you a couple little options. All right, guys, so this is what BookBrush looks like. And essentially, I have it in the custom creator function right now. And this is where you would go to make most teasers. They do have a cover function as well. And I'll show you instant mockups really quickly too. But the things that I like about it is just that it's so absolutely fast. And some of the features that they allow you to do. So the first thing you'd have to do is you'd have to pick a size of what exactly it is that you wanted to do here. So Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I like that that's already labeled for me. You can do a custom size if you want, if that's something you're used to, but I'm not really good with that. So that's why I like the fact that there's templates. You can also hit other. First off, there's card. You can create business cards or postcards. I will use them sometimes when I do cards for various different promos that I send out. Or you can also do other, which I think is really cool. So you can create bookmarks and coasters too. So if you were doing something where you needed bookmarks, this might be a really good option for you. That's very quick and easy. So we'll just pick one quickly. You can also save some things as templates as well, so that you can use the same things again if you want to, or just to change them up. But generally you're going to start over every time. So let's say we're going to do Instagram just to keep it simple. So we've got our block in the middle of the screen here. And then the next thing we're going to do, and this is why I love BookBrush. This is the thing that makes things the easiest for me, is because of these templates. You can do this in Canva. You can do this in Photoshop, but typically you have to put your cover on a template for this paperback or for the e-readers or the iPhones. For this, it's very simple. You would just click on, I want this paperback, and then it's already got my covers uploaded here. So all I have to do is just click on one of my covers, and it's going to convert it to that style. So I can, in a couple of seconds, I have this cover already done. I can size it however I want to, position it wherever I want to on the ad. And then I can turn it if I want to, change my mind, put it back or front or whatever. And then if I want, if we're going to do both of them, we could add in the e-reader, and it's going to come up just as quick and easy, and you can just pop that in there real quick and off you go. Okay, I'm obviously not making this very pretty right now, but it's very quick and very easy, and that took me just like a couple of seconds. So that's why one of the main reasons why I like BookBrush. The other thing that you can do that I love, so they've got backgrounds. You can search various different things. Let's say we just want a forest. There's some pick art stuff that you can use, or you could just do something very simple. Let's say we just want to do pink. You could do something that's pink. There's various different things that are pink that I'll give you. This could be fun for audiobook. Let's just go with this just to keep it simple. You can mess with the backgrounds too. You can change them, add like overlays and filters to change out how that's going to look. Let's say I want to have some like writing over top of that. You can blur it and do all that kind of fun stuff. And that's not any different than Canva or something else. So I won't get into that too much. But the other reason that I absolutely adore BookBrush is the stamps option. It is limited on the free, but if you do have the paid version like I do, they have a ton of available at Amazon, Creative with BookBrush, Kobo, Nook, USA Today Bestsellers, audio, all of these sorts of things. So you can easily just click on this. And so download with Apple Books. And now I have this already set up here, and I can put it wherever I want and size it accordingly, and it's going to be good. I can throw on Kobo after that, and we can just put that there very, very simply. There's also the text, which isn't going to be any different than Canva or anything like else. So you just click on it, you add your text, whatever that is, text styling, and you're going to change it. It has a few limited options. I do find that Canva and Photoshop and those things are better in this regard, but when you're trying to do something really, really quickly, it makes things simple. Plus you can make things a button like buy now or whatever and change that up. Let's say you want to make that button red just because you can do that and just play around with it. Obviously, this is not a good teaser to make, but that's one thing that I really, really like. The other thing that's super helpful with BookBrush that I love is if you go back to the main menu, you can use there. So there's the cover creator that I said, box set creator if you wanted to create a box set. But the other one is instant mockups, and this can be crazy fast for you. So it's got all your covers up top, and then you would pick what kind of size you wanted wherever. And so you could just do the mockups for the paperbacks and things, which could be really good because you could take those and use those in Canva or use those in Photoshop or Pixelmator or whatever. Or there's very basic ones as well. So let's just say we want to do this macarons one and this one and this one. And we're going to pick Keeper of Shadows. And they've got different options that you can pick as well. And then once you're done and you've clicked everything, you just hit convert now. Of course, it's going to take about 4 seconds per image, so I really should have just picked one, but I didn't. And then you can just go to download your images, and they've all downloaded for me on the bottom here in a zip file. So now let's just open one just because I've got the 3 images already made in like seconds. It says need to escape, read a book, and it's got my thing in here as well. There isn't really much that I can do on customization, but you could technically take this into another program and add extra things if you wanted to. But it's something that's very, very quick and easy. If you're trying to do something last minute, this could take you literally seconds to do, whereas somewhere else it's going to take you a little bit longer. So that's basically all I have to say about BookBrush. Other options are something like WordSwag. WordSwag is a fun little app that I found. It's on my phone, and you can take pictures from your phone, or they have standard pictures as well, and you can basically just type in whatever line it is, and then you could just pick different types of fonts where it was like various different call outs and that sort of thing. They make it very pretty for you. That one's a little bit more restrictive in the sense that you can't really add a lot of your branding to it. You can't really add your cover unless that's in the picture itself. But if you are trying to get something up quickly and you just wanted to throw in something different, then that's another option that you could use. Okay, so obviously you're going to use what software you're comfortable with, but the few tips that I do have for using software is to try and make things a little bit more efficient for you. First off, my first suggestion is to batch your teaser creation. So what do I mean by batching? I know a lot of people have probably seen that in the planning world before, and that's basically you do a mass amount of what you're doing in one period of time. Instead of going back to make a teaser every single week for Teaser Tuesday, you might sit down at the beginning of a month and make 4 for every week. Or if you have a launch coming up, you will sit down for a couple of hours and you will make enough teasers that's going to cover you for the 3 weeks before launch and then all of launch week. So by batching it, you're already in the program, you're already using things, and you can reuse different things, obviously, because your branding is going to stay relatively the same. If you're using the same cover on every teaser and you're just changing out the background, that's going to be a whole lot faster than leaving the program, coming back another day, creating another thing, putting that cover back in there. So obviously that's going to save you a lot of time by batching your teasers. So when you know something's coming up, batch it, get on top of it. And even if you have something else coming up that you can see that far ahead, maybe you want to make a Christmas teaser because it's coming into the Christmas season, or Halloween, or Valentine's Day, or Arbor Day, whatever you want to do. You can get on top of that and get all those done at the same time, and it's going to save you so much time later, especially since obviously if you're sitting down to make teasers, you have time right now. You don't know what your time's going to look like in 3 weeks. You're hoping you're going to have time to do that, but if things get in the way, it's already done. Just like they say sometimes with social media, like posting and planning, you can sit down at the beginning of the month, figure out what you need for the month, and then do that. Start again at the beginning of the month. Make it a routine, make it simple. But batching your teasers will save you an immense amount of time. It may not seem like it because you're probably gonna sit there for 3 hours, but that 3 hours is probably 6 to 8 if you spread it out over several weeks. My next suggestion in terms of using software, and a lot of people will probably disagree with me on this one just in terms of resolution, but trying to make things as simple as possible, is to use the lowest common denominator for your social media sizes. What do I mean by this? I use Instagram, and I use Twitter, and I use Facebook. So for me, whenever I have something on Instagram, Instagram is the smallest size for my graphics that I can use. So anything that I post on Instagram will fit on my Facebook and fit on my Twitter, but not the other way around. If I create something Facebook size, they're gonna cut things off in my Instagram posts. So what I tend to do is that I will create my teasers to fit on Instagram. And then I can use them wherever I want, but I'm never gonna have to resize them. They're not gonna be cut off, and I'm not gonna have any of those issues where half of my teaser is missing because it doesn't fit within the guidelines of that social media platform. So if you want to make things a lot easier on yourself, or instead of making 3 different versions for every single social media app that you have, then just make it for the smallest one that you possibly have. Like I said, in terms of resolution, some people may suggest making one for every single platform, but in the essence of time, and the fact of the matter is it's pretty small, so the resolution isn't going to matter all that much. Just make it the smallest that you need to make it for the social media platforms that you use. And then my third suggestion for using software is to change it up while you're doing things and try different looks. So this is similar to the same idea as batching. If you are creating a teaser with a specific line, why don't you try a different background but use the same line? You can make a couple of teasers with the same quotes or the same sales pitch on them because they might reach a different audience even though the line is the same. Like I said, if you have a steamy romance but it's not super steamy, maybe you can try making that teaser super sexy and then make one that's a little bit more toned down. Using the same line, it's going to have a different context and it's probably going to reach a different reader set. And you can see which one gets a little bit more reaction once you put it out on social media. If you're finding that your steamy teasers are doing better, then maybe those are the ones you're going to want to post more often, and you're going to understand more of where your market is. And if your other ones are doing better, then maybe that's where you need to focus your teasers going forward. But it's a lot easier to switch out a background when everything else is set into place than it is to remake a teaser over and over and over again when you want to change your look, because you're going to have to retype it all out, remember what the font was, change the colors again, add all of that extra stuff on there. Whereas if you've already got it set up and you're already ready to go, do a couple of looks, save them all to your drive, and then use them accordingly and see what happens. All right, so those are my main tips for teasers. So obviously the first part is just kind of how to set up your teaser, and the second part is a little bit more about going into the software and seeing what you can do with that. I also hope that you liked my little walkthrough for BookBrush. Like I said, I'm not affiliated with them at all, but it's just a program that I really, really like. So thank you so much for watching. Like I said, if you enjoy my content, make sure you're hitting that red subscription bar and the notification bell. And whether you subscribe or whether you don't, make sure you're hitting that thumbs up to let YouTube know that this is a video worth watching. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next week.